What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Active Self-Protection Extra. I am Christopher Beam with Tactical Advantage, and today we're going to talk about, can a metronome help you shoot better?
The Storm Hunter WX weather app is free to download and use and provides you with warning of severe weather even before the National Weather Services issue alerts. This advanced weather app is an important tool for awareness of severe weather that I use every day. Download and use it totally free without in-app purchases on iOS or Android at the link below.
So today what I'd like to talk about is cadence or shot cadence, or shooting to a predetermined frequency of shots. And that's not something I really cater to because your vision really drives what's happening with the gun. But one thing I started trying quite some time ago that I believe is super effective that I wanted to share with you guys is implementing a metronome into your practice. So one thing I found is a metronome, you can set up sequences of time to kind of get a visual reference on how the gun acts at those different speeds of trigger manipulation, if that makes sense. And I found it super helpful just to understand how the gun tracks. And this can be implemented under dry fire as well as live fire, preferably in dry because you can put a little bit more visual attention into it. But to kind of start with, I've got a little metronome app on my phone. And right now it's set up at 60 beats per minute, which would equate to 1 shot per second. And what I'm going to do is a couple different demonstrations and explanations on how my sights are acting at these different trigger speeds. So 60 BPM is about it's 1 shot per second. So just to give you a reference, so we're going to try and set that up and just see how our sights act at that 1 shot per second. So we have a cleared gun, and really the target or the target designation isn't so important here. I just want to see how my dot moves, or if you're an iron shooter, how your irons would move at this particular cadence. And hopefully you guys can see I'm really over exaggerating the trigger press there, just to see if I can disturb the sights, which no, like at that speed, I'm really getting virtually no movement. So let's move that up to 120 beats per minute, which is about 0.5. If you ever heard the term splits, that's a 0.5 split. And we'll try the same thing. And then if you guys have ever heard me shoot dry fire drills like bill drills, I have a tendency to count out loud. And this is kind of a piece of that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And really being aggressive on the trigger, I'm seeing still virtually no movement or no disturbance in my sights, which is good, which is what we want. So let's go now to say 240 beat per minute, and that gives us that 25 or 0.25 split. And I know everyone loves listening to that, but it gets burned in your head. So this is like if you ever heard like 2-5 splits, like if you're talking about like the Gabe White challenge. One, two, three, four, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now be a little bit more aggressive on my trigger. So even right now at this distance, I've got less than probably a 1/4 inch of deviation in my sights. So we know we're pretty solid there. So that's 2.5 is when you're getting into like 0.25. That's really when you're getting into, you're shooting relatively quickly. So now on this one, let me pause it for a second. This one goes up to 320 beats per minute. And this is about the fastest metronome app I could find. 320 beats per minute equates to 0.1875. So you're getting below the 0.20 split kind of ballpark. So now you're really kind of cooking on that trigger. This is where I would expect to see a little bit of deviation in my sights and during dry fire especially. But really what we're trying to get a handle on is visually, what does that deviation look like? Do I need to change my grip? Do I need to change pressures? Do I need to change anything to foster this level of speed on the trigger and have the disturbance at minimum be controlled, but hopefully minimized? So let's get a feel for that. So now we'll be cooking on splits. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Still trying to really exaggerate my trigger press. Hopefully you can see that. And we're still kind of keeping it, if you guys can see, like this dot right here, I would see no dot travel outside of that dot. So let's try that one more time. Nice. So there's a couple things you can do with this. One, it helps you mentally start understanding time, which I believe is very important. Once you go from like the intermediate to advanced level of shooter, humans are not great timekeepers, but this is a really good way to start understanding that and implementing that into the way you think about shooting. Two is really, it's a way for you to communicate with the gun that's a little different with an external kind of stimuli or an external variable, so you can start understanding what is the gun trying to tell you under these types of speeds. So if you see extreme deviation at, you know, say 0.5 splits, 0.25 splits, wherever that is for you, you can start implementing things or trying different things to mitigate that. And then you can just progressively push up speed till you kind of have that dealt with. Now, one thing I would caution anyone when I hear about like shooting to cadence, shooting to things like that, do not use any kind of external force to dictate how fast you can run the gun. Your eyes tell you how fast you can run the gun. You're using these tools to help train your eyes and your body to communicate better with the gun. So one thing I've found with this that's really, really useful for people that struggle with splits, say they're stuck at like a 0.30 or a 0.35, and they just do not believe they are capable of running like a 0.25 or a 0.20. These little apps, you can run them into some of the electronic ear protection, and you'll have that beep or that reference in their ear protection. And if you just let it run for a minute and then let them try and shoot, they'll start noticing that they can actually fall in step with it. Now, in the beginning, when you're exposed to it, falling in step with it, you may have to dispel accuracy or dispel some other things as you're acquainting or learning to shoot at that speed. So as long as you remember to couple the visual to the mechanical, this can make a big difference on how fast you can shoot. Much like a shot timer, it's just a tool. If used correctly, it's extremely valuable. If used incorrectly, at best it's an inconvenience or doesn't provide much value. At worst, it can actually hamper the way or what you believe is happening while you shoot. So that's it for this week. I hope this is interesting for you guys. That app was free. I got it off the Play Store, and it's fun to play with. I'd be interested to hear how this works for you guys, or if you think this is valuable, and we'll go from there. So see you next time.